Guys, welcome back. Today we'll be looking at classes. And today's objective is you will learn about the concept of classes, you will learn about access control, constructors and distractors. You will also learn about member functions and attributes, static members. You also learn about memory allocation and memory initialization. Now let's look at classes. So classes is a user-defined data type that we can use in our program, and it works as an object constructor or a blueprint for creating objects. And let's look at attributes and methods. Are basically variables and functions that belongs to the class. These classes are often referred to as class members. Now, when you want to begin a class, we use the word class, or when you want to code or you want to use the classes, you have to use the word class. So this is the structure of how the class is being formed. So you have the class and then the name. Then in the parenthesis you have the access specifier, and within the access specifier you have the attribute and then the method. So here is an example. Now let's look at the components of a class. A class contains attributes and methods known as a class contains attributes and methods known as members. Attributes refers to the declaration in the class that stores data. The members refers to the definitions in the class that are used to manipulate the attributes or properties. Class methods. So methods are functions that belongs to the class. There are two ways to define function that belongs to a class. We have the inside class definition, and then we have the outside class definition. So for the inside class, here's an example of the inside class. So as you can see, now let's look at class methods and parameters. Parameters act as a placeholder for the data to be accepted by a function. In classes, methods can be provided parameters for argument to be accepted when calling the methods. So a method in the myRecord class. So as you can see, now let's look at argument in classes. Accessing a class method and passing arguments. So after the class is being formed, you want to assign, or you want to have access to it. So this is what you have. Now let's look at class constructors. A class constructor is a special method that is automatically called when a class when an object of a class is created. To create a constructor, use the same name as the class, followed by the parentheses. So the constructor has the same name as the class. It has no return type. It is usually declared public. It is automatically called when an object is created. So we have one. So we have an example here. Here is the class, and the class which is named myRecords, and then we have public. And for the constructor, which is myRecords. and whatever is within this is a constructor. So my records is under public. Now let's look at class distract classes distractors. A distractor is a special method that is only called when an object of a class is destroyed or ended. It delocates all memory used for the creation. To create a distractor, use the tilde followed by the same name as the class, then by the parentheses. So we add this. So if you want to distract the class, you have to add the tilde. Now let's look at class access specifiers. Access specifiers, also known as access modifiers, control how the members, into brackets, the attributes or methods of a class can be accessed. They help protect data and organize code so that only the right parts can be seen or changed. There are three access type specifiers. We have the public, we have the private, we have the protected. So for the public, members declared as public can be accessed from outside the class. You need to specify that a member of the class should be public in order to access it outside the class. And for the private, members declared as private cannot be accessed from outside the class. By default, all members of the class are private if they don't specify an access specifier. So here's an example. Now let's look at protected. Members declared as protected cannot be accessed from outside the class, but they can be accessed in child classes. So as you can see, we have the public, private, and protected. Now let's look at these pointers. This pointer is a pointer that points to the current instance of a class. It is used when the member functions of the classes to refer to the objects of that class. It allows access to the calling object data and methods. So here's an example of this pointer. Which is pointing to return this my class. So this is the this pointer. Now let's look at objects. An object is an instance of a class created from a classes. As we have already talked about something about objects in my videos, in one of my videos. If you go and look, you'll find it. You get more details about the object, but I'll repeat myself here. So to create an object of a class, specify the class name followed by the object name. So syntax, and then we have the class name and object name. So we have my record Jemima with the class, the object name, the class name, and then the object name, and we have the multiple objects, which is self-explanatory. Now let's look at accessing class members. Class members can be accessed when objects of the classes are created using the dot operator and assigned name. So if you want to access a class, you have to use the dot operator and the assigned name. So as you can see here. Now let's look at modifying class members. So class members that are public attributes can be modified using the assigned operator, that's the equal to. Yeah. Now let's take a look at the class members and static members. Members of the class can be declared as static, and static members are only associated with objects of a class, but the class itself can be accessed directly through the class without creating objects. Both attributes and methods can be static members. And we can see from here, we have public, then we have the static string, my day of birth, and initializing static member. So if you want to have access to static member, you can see here, or you want to, yeah. So if you want to initialize a static member, this example. Now let's look at classes in object-oriented programming, which is the OOPS. So object-oriented programming is about creating objects which can hold data and functions that works on that data. Classes are used to implement object-oriented concepts such as encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism. Inheritance allows one class to reuse attributes and methods from another class. It helps you to write clearer. More efficient code by avoiding duplication. We have types of inheritance. We have the derived class with the child class, and then we have the base class with the parent class. Let's look at encapsulation. Encapsulation ensures that sensitive data is hidden from users. The use of private class access specifier is classes get help at the use of private access specifier in classes helps achieve encapsulation. The use of setter, that's set, and getter, that's get, allows reading and modification of private members. The use of friend function allows direct classes. Now let's look at polymorphism. Polymorphism means many forms, and it occurs when we have many classes that are related to each other by inheritance. And it uses methods inherit from another class to perform different tasks. So as we get to know about classes, you can try some of the codes out to get more understanding. So I will end my session here. I would like to thank you all for joining. Bye.